Hey guys, real quick before this episode gets started. Well, first off, what's up? It's T-Bone from Rolling with T-Bone. Hey, if you guys are in the premiere chat and I'm not, don't freak out. That just means that if everything's going according to my plan, this is a special Saturday episode of Rolling with T-Bone, which I know you guys really enjoy. And if I'm not in there with y'all guys right now, that means that I'm out shooting content and should be on my way back home. I'm shooting content for the Halloween episodes. So, I know y'all like to come in, hang out in the premiere chat, talk amongst yourselves, and just see how everybody's doing. So I figured I would set this up as a premiere. And if you're new here and you don't know what's going on, welcome in. You'll find some people down in the premiere chat under this that's happening right now if you're in the premiere video. Guys like Recycled Hooligan, Georgia Hillbilly, Neil M., Brown Chicken, Frog and Lolly, just all kinds of cool people. Motobomb, Sterling Will. If you need to know something, those guys will let you know. If you got a question, just ask. If they can answer it, they will. If not, jump out in the outside comments on this video, shoot me your question, and hey, I'll answer it as quick as I can. But in the meantime, y'all sit back, grab your favorite beverage, and enjoy a very special Saturday episode of Rolling with T-Bone.
T-Bone roars like a thunderstorm blast. Engine growling as the trees rush past. Wheels on fire carve the mountain's face. The legend rides with a reckless grace. T-Bone's shadow cuts the sky through the peaks where...
Alright guys, as the hyper guy on the other side of this opening told you, I should be out somewhere right now shooting content for the Halloween episodes. If you are new here too, if you come in early on this video, excuse me, usually Sick Bastard is the first person to end on each video because he goes ahead and he gets the video shared for me and everything. So Sick can answer questions too if you got anything you need to know. I'm probably forgetting some people. Ray Gregory, he should be in here. Hopefully everybody's doing good. But let's get to the meat and potatoes of this Saturday episode. I know South Oz is finishing up a trip he was on. Very cool trip. But I have had something bouncing around in my head all day long. And it has to do with Gen X, my generation. So I'm going to see if I can articulate some of this stuff to you and see if I can make it make sense. So what's been bouncing around in my head all day is Gen X. Every person from every generation will tell you how their generation is the absolute best generation. Gen Xers, we're no different. Because Gen X is a pretty special generation. And I say that for several reasons, but the main reasons are Gen X, we were the first, or we were the last, and we were the first. Now, what does that mean? Well, in the vein of we were the last generation to exist before this existed. So we are the final remnants of the industrial age. We came from a time before technology. Not before all technology. Of course, technology existed during Gen X's time. But the 80s and 90s, most of this to us was science fiction. It was pseudoscience. It was props for Hollywood. Because we were the generation who grew up with television shows like Knight Rider, Airwolf, movies like Star Wars, television shows like Star Trek. So this was very much just sci-fi to us. If you would have told us 35 years ago that this was what the world was going to become, we would have said, we don't see it. But just like then to now, what's got my gears turning is just how far this has come. And of course, if you're not new here and you've been around for a while, you know the last few conversations we've had were conversations of technology, reverse engineering technology. But to get away from all of that and just to talk about the technology itself, man, what a special time Gen X's time was in the 80s and the 90s. To begin with, we come from a generation before cell phones. This didn't exist to us. Even the ideal of this didn't really exist to us on the large scale. We came from the generation of very much your telephone was in your house. And if you're young and you're watching this, you might want to sit down when I say this. I don't want you to pass out, but our cell phones back then, in the beginning, back in the Stone Age, all our cell phones did was made calls. Yeah, I know. What kind of seventh level hell did we grow up in? Well, we grew up in a great time. Because not only did the cell phone only make a phone call, you couldn't text. I know. You couldn't text. Really? We couldn't even surf the web. Why? Because it didn't exist yet. Not at the point it is now. So T-Bone, if this stuff didn't exist back then, how did y'all communicate with people? Well, oh man, it was crazy. We did. It was real crazy. Y'all ain't gonna believe this when I tell you. But we used to take and put like $5 worth of gas in our car. That would give us like 6, 7, 8, 9 gallons of gas. And we would grab a cold, refreshing beverage. And we would do something called cruising. And what cruising was we would ride around in town until our friends showed up. And then we would all hang out in a parking lot and talk, face to face. I know, this is wild, ain't it? Y'all ain't even believing this. And the thing about the telephone was, a lot of people during that time we did look at the cell phone and say, I don't want to carry that thing all the time. I don't want people calling me all the time, knowing where I'm at, what I'm doing. And I guess that's the part of it that kind of gets to me a little bit. Kind of trying to be a little bit funny, but not. But it is wild to think back to being the last of a generation. We were the last to know all of those things. To know the simplicity of ignoring the telephone or taking it off the hook because we didn't want it to ring at night and wake us up. And face-to-face interaction was how we socialized. The original Facebook to us was the Necronomicon in the movies The Evil Dead. That was the original Facebook. But social networking back then was face-to-face. Back in the Stone Age. And I think back about those times, and what really trips me out is, just how in the course of 35 years, skip forward a couple of generations, millennials and Gen Z, that this has become such an intricate part of who we are now. We can't be without it. And that's kind of trippy to me because when you think about that, you think, well, and I know there's some out there going to contradict what I'm saying. T-Bone, I can live without the cell phone. I don't have to have that thing. Okay, well, I'm not saying you can't live without it. But about a month ago, our power went out due to a storm. We had a pretty bad set of storms to come through that hit the substation and knocked our power out. And our power was out from like somewhere between the 5 and 6 o'clock hour of the evening, and we were without power the rest of the night. It didn't come back on till early the next morning. So we didn't have this because we didn't want our batteries to go completely dead, so we wasn't messing with them. But we amused ourselves and we did without it. It was kind of a liberating thing, really. It kind of reminded us that, yeah, if we have to, we can exist without this. Uh, but just to think about 35 years ago, we were the last of the industrial age, last remnants of the industrial age, but we were really the first remnants of the technological age. Meaning, in the beginning, the cell phone for us was just nothing more than, you know, a secondary. Believe it or not, guys, it was just a secondary phone. We only carried it and took it with us in case of an emergency. And most of the time it was dead because we would forget to charge it. And it was huge, like a block of concrete. But we were the beginning, too, of what the technological age would be because Generation X had spent time being drip fed technology, foreshadowing, if you want to call it that. We grew up very much in a time where the excitement for technology was running rampant. Television shows like Knight Rider, uh, you know, foreshadowing. And think about this, guys. 1984, I know way back in the Stone Age. 1984, there was a television show about a guy who wore a watch. And when he pushed the button on his watch, he could talk to his car. And his car talked back to him. And it thought for itself. And it could make decisions. And it could drive itself. So think about Airwolf, an old television show from the 80s called Airwolf that was foreshadowing the Apache military helicopter, the most advanced helicopter to ever exist. We had shows that was drip feeding us this stuff, and it was foreshadowing very much of what would come. I mean, people with Apple Watches now can push a button and crank their car. They can set the thermostat. Their car can drive itself. We got self-driving cars now. So for Generation X, we are very much living in the future. Now, of course, we don't have the backpack rockets, and we don't live up in the sky like the Jetsons told us we were going to, but we are very much living in the future. And when you see somebody from Gen X talk about this kind of stuff, then it's because we grew up looking at the what was called pseudoscience or science fiction uh, has now for us become science fact. We went from computers that filled up entire rooms to this. We went from, if you needed to use a laptop computer, you usually went to the local library and you used their computer, to this. We went from the telephone in the house to this. Uh, we went from surfing the internet and listening to dial up to this. I mean, everything we need is right here. This is the telephone. This is the computer. This is the future that we were shown way back in the Stone Age. So we are very much, Generation X is very much living in the future. Uh, and we were the beginning remnants of all this. So when you take all in that into account, what does that mean? So what that means is, as the technology was advancing, Gen X and then later the millennials, we were the proving ground. If you are a gamer and you enjoy gaming right now, we were the proving ground for what you're doing right now because we were the generation that would see them take the games, video games, out of arcades, which, if you don't know what an arcade is, that's just a local spot where everybody would go to hang out to play video games. We would see them take that big, huge console and shrink it down into the Atari, the Nintendo, the Super Nintendo, and then later on the PlayStation. We would see them bring that into our homes along with computers. Used to, computers were these huge, massive monstrosities that took up an entire warehouse. It got shrinked down to this. So we were the proving ground for that. Had Gen X not responded favorably to the game consoles, had the millennials not then continued to show the same enjoyment out of the consoles that Gen X did, then gaming might be a totally different concept today. So you're welcome if you love gaming and you're a gamer, then you're welcome. We were the test dummies for that. So, but we were at the beginning of all that. So we would see all of this technology, and a lot of this stuff would happen, guys, without us even realizing it. Because, like I said, we had been drip fed ideas. The guy talking to his car in Knight Rider, Michael Knight talking to his car, and his car's name was KIT, and KIT was the acronym for the Knight Industries 2000. He was actually, a little bit of fun fact, he was the second prototype. The first prototype was called KARR, K-A-R-R, the Knight Automated Roving Rover. So, the interest we showed in that technology was what was prompting the move behind making the computer chip so small that you could do this with it. And I promise you guys, if you would have asked the T-Bone 35 years ago to explain 2025 technology, we would have been lost. Any of us who wasn't inside the confines of a, lab producing stuff, we wouldn't have had a clue what this was. I mean, because to us, this was very much, as I said, pseudoscience. It was Hollywood props, is basically what it was to us. So as we went on into the proving grounds, and it's not just for technology, I would see things, looking back on it now, in a retrospective view. As a Gen Xer, looking backwards. So many things changed that I never thought would change. Cars, junkyards, salvage yards. Those of you who have been with the channel for a while and remember back at the first of this year, I had major vehicle issues. I had a universal joint to explode in the front of my truck, and when it exploded, it destroyed my drive shaft and it busted the tail section of my transmission out. So Jaybird, who may be in the comments right now, maybe down in the comment section, who is also my mechanic, Jaybird and me were all over the technology trying to find parts. And guys, when I tell you finding parts for my truck was a job, it was a job. Because I called everybody between here and Kentucky. And finally, I called a person in Vonore, Tennessee, who told me about a place in Gainesville, Georgia called Mom's Truck Supply. And they actually had the parts that I needed. And what turned out, by the time it was all said and done, by the time I bought the parts, went and got them, paid Jaybird to install the parts, what had turned out to be a 30-year ago job that would have cost $150, maybe turned into a $850 job. Right there, guys. The guy works down here at the sawmill was coming out, so I had to. His truck is allergic to mufflers, and that thing's just loud. But anyway, getting back to the point I was making, I had to go a long ways around and pay a lot of money to get a part 30 years ago. So the point I'm making is I never thought there would come a time when I couldn't just jump in a car, run to the junkyard, and get the part that I needed for my vehicle. And catch yourself when I say this, a lot of us out here can't just afford to pay inflated prices for parts. We very much exist in the used parts world. And in that same vein, I never thought there would come a time when you couldn't walk up in somebody's yard and say, hey, what's wrong with the old car that's sitting over at the edge of the yard? Does it still run? And the owner would say, yeah, it still runs, but we bought another car, so we don't use that one. And you would ask, well, what do you think it would take to crank it? A little bit of gas and the booster cables will fire it up. Okay, would you be interested in getting rid of it? Yeah. Well, how much would you have to have for it? I'll give me $100 and it's yours. I can't tell you how many. And guys, y'all have to forgive me. I took Benadryl, but ragweed and all that stuff is coming on right now, and I am very allergic to all that stuff. But I can't tell you how many cars I bought for $100 out of somebody's yard that ran. And in that same vein, I can't tell you how many times I pulled up someone's house and said, hey, what's wrong with the old motorcycle that you've got propped up behind the shed? Does it run? Oh, yeah, we bought it. We rode it a few times, and we just parked it and quit riding it. Well, would you be interested in getting rid of it? Yeah, give me $50 and you can have it. And usually a little bit of gas, clean the plugs, wash out the carburetor, and you're riding up and down the road on your new to you $50 motorcycle. I can't tell you how many motorcycles I bought for $50 or $100, or how many cars I bought for $100 to $300. But I never thought those times would end. I never thought that the concept of that would get lost. And I can blame a couple. Well, not really blame, but I can kind of bring it into a couple of different reasons for that. Several years ago, the government, they started a program called Cash for Clunkers, where the government needed to get a hold of steel. So they were paying inflated prices for cars, trucks, motorcycles, anything that was steel that you wasn't using. So the price of steel went through the roof. And when the price of steel went through the roof, everybody with a rollback or a truck and a trailer was snatching up all these old junk cars and taking them and selling them and getting big money for them. So in turn, that delivered a pretty hard blow to the used market. And then you just had in time cars changed. The used market dried up after the Cash for Clunkers thing, because anything 90s or pre-90s was crushed. So now if you still have those vehicles, to get parts for them, you basically have to jump online and order them from China or somewhere overseas. The used motorcycle world took a real big hit with Craigslist. I can remember the first few times that I got on the Craigslist looking for motorcycles, and I would see motorcycles that I dug out of the dirt and gave somebody $100 for, now selling for $2,500 or $3,000. And the crazy thing is, people were paying it. I never thought I would see that kind of time. I never thought that I would see a used vehicle nearly pace the price of a new vehicle. That I never thought we would see that in my lifetime, because I always thought that the simplicity of used parts, used vehicles, etc. I always thought that the concept of that would always be around. I thought, like a lot of people did, that there would always be a need for that. There would always be consumers for that type of stuff. So you fast forward now 35 years, and the world that a 25-year-old T-Bone grew up in and the world that a 48-year-old T-Bone lives in are two totally different worlds. We were the end of something and we were the beginning of something. You just never think about these things, but to me, it's funny and it's kind of amazing just how easily we acclimated to this and how this now has become an intricate part of our lives. This is part of our everyday life. And it's wild to know where we came from to see where we arrived. The reality of that is that as we were growing older and we were being drip fed this information, I guess there were people who were always waiting for the next big technology piece to drop, but for the most part, most of us just took it in stride as it came. It wasn't that it was that important. It just, over time, it integrated itself into our lives, and now everything we do is on this: appointments, app check-ins, and it's crazy to see how this has happened, because I can't tell you how many times I've been with R1 at a doctor's office waiting for the doctor to call her back, and I would see a 75-year-old, 80-year-old on their cell phone scrolling through Facebook or texting someone. And I thought, when you go from our ideal, and the generations before us, when you go from our ideal of what technology would become, I don't think any of us back then we didn't have the thought that this would become such an important thing in our lives, that our lives would basically revolve around this right here. And for me to see that is really kind of crazy. So then, what a lot of this stuff mostly comes back to, is a very uncomfortable truth. And that uncomfortable truth is that we, a lot of times, don't want to admit it, but we are at the mercy of time. Time is our greatest enemy. Time and Mother Nature are undefeated. So when you think about it in the essence of time, the minute we are born fighting the clock. Being biological creatures, we are born with an expiration date. Now we don't know when that is. If you are lucky to live to get to grow older, then you get to see these things happen. But sometimes growing old isn't a luxury that's afforded to everyone. So in the uncomfortableness of the time and the expiration date. Don't think about that stuff. It happens that you have to think about those things from time to time, but you try not to get bound down by them. And what I mean by that is, at some point, if you live to get to be a middle-aged or older person, at some point you're going to have to face your mortality. That happened to me when I was 38 years old. I had caught pneumonia real bad. I was down for like the entire winter. I was sick for 4 months. And I'll never forget the night. It was 3:10 a.m. exactly in the morning that I came up out of the bed suffocating. I couldn't catch air. I could not breathe because my lungs had simply stopped. Finally, I was able to get something to relax enough to where I could start taking in air, and I mean, it was scary. It scared me. It scared R1. And that's when, going forward, I would learn about the allergies that I had, learn about just, it took 3 rounds of antibiotics to get me past the pneumonia. And I hadn't been that sick since I was a kid. And the sickest I ever was as a kid was, I had strep throat one time, and I kept it for like 14 days. But when you think about those things, and you think about time being an enemy, time's not on your side. Because time is a great eroder. Time erodes things. Cars, your truck, your home, your motorcycle, your heart, your brain. Time is the thing that reaches and it takes that stuff away from you a little bit of a time. And it's a scary thing to think about, and I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer, but you do have to face your mortality at some point. These things become real. And when you look at time as the great eroder, and then you think about everything we do in our life during the day, that's revolves around time. Time is a driving force. We're on time, out of time, next time, this time, almost time to get up. Well, it's time to go to bed. It's time to eat. Everything is driven by time. And I've talked about this before a little bit on the channel, but in the march of time, Gen X has now become the middle-aged group. And just like sitting here right now, a 35-year ago, T-Bone couldn't have explained none of this to you. A 35-year from now, who knows? Because we know, those of us from Gen X and before who watched the march of time and the march of technology, we couldn't fathom a lot of this stuff. So who knows what it's going to be like in another 35 years. God willing, we'll be around to see it. I've lived my life in what I call 20-year increments. The first 20 years sucked. The second 20 years after God put R1 in my path, a lot better. Now I'm 8 years. As the time I'm shooting this video, my birthday is 2 days from now. It'll be 4 days after it when you see this video. But I am 48. I'm now 8 years into my third 20-year cycle. And who knows, what technology is going to look like. Who knows what's going to come along in another 20 years that will make this right here obsolete. And you say, T-Bone, do you really think that this will become obsolete? Yeah, it will. Because that's one of the universal truths about technology. Technology, from its very inception and by design, is made to evolve. This, by its very design, its very nature, is to learn and evolve. And back in the 90s, we thought that there was a movie that would come out that would be a precautionary tale about a society becoming too reliant on technology, and that movie was Terminator. It did not become a cautionary tale. It was a blueprint for now the Poindexters and the really, really smart people said, hey, we've got to rush to get to that future. Because what they call, technology is what we're seeing today with like the Starlink thing. The technology running through the air, we've all seen the videos of Starlink. Looks like a subway running through the sky. The world is very much linked technologically. And like I said, by design, this is made to evolve. This is made to learn. This is made to become more. So, yeah, it will eventually, something will come along that will replace this. This, along with, because we watched it, Gen X has got to watch that happen. We watched the cassette tape come along and make the 8-track obsolete. We watched the CD come along and make the cassette tape obsolete. And then we watched this right here come along and make all of it obsolete. So we've seen that with our gaming. I was talking about gaming. We've seen that with game consoles. Every year, every couple of years, it advances, it grows, it becomes more technological. To now, you got VR headsets and everything's virtual reality. So we have spent time as Gen X. We have spent time in our lives watching this technology advance and march forward. So yeah, who knows in another 30 years what technology is going to look like. Who knows what this conversation will look like in another 30 years. And that's kind of part of the human condition, guys, is that, we can be dead set against something 10 years ago, but look at it today and be like, okay, you know what? I get that. I understand it. That's just the human condition. And hey, it's all right to change your mind about something. If you didn't understand it then and you understand it now and you like it now, then hey, you're allowed to do that. So it's very much a driving force going forward to say that yes, the technology between now and 2055 will have advanced greatly, I would imagine. Just in the last decade, technology has jumped leaps and bounds. Really, it's kind of scary to look at the last decade, from 2015 to 2025, just how much technology has seeped into everything. But at the same time, it's also exciting because of technology. We're not back there in the Stone Age or Stone Age. We are very much in I say now we're in the best time in history because sicknesses like my wife, R1, had the stroke and then they found her breast cancer. 30 years ago, either one of those scenarios, let alone both of them together, could have been a death sentence. But we have advanced with technology so far that the medical field has advanced that now this stuff with early detection can be taken care of pretty quick. Heart trouble, if you've got a history of heart trouble in your family, heart trouble can be detected pretty quick. So what I'm saying by that is that technologically speaking about the advancement of technology, it's a scary thing, but it's also a miraculous thing. And we in Generation X are very much living in the future right now because This is kind of the stuff that was drip fed to us and promised us 35 years ago, 40 years ago. So we are seeing it. We are living in the future that we saw. So, T-Bone, I'm a 25-year-old person and I'm watching this video. What would you tell me that you have gathered in your life? What I have learned, and a 25-year-old T-Bone didn't have no wisdom. That's the first thing I'll tell you. Wisdom comes with age. To become wise, you've got to live. And you can't live in 20 to 25 years. You can't live everything you need to live to get the wisdom that you need. So first, I would just tell you, learn. Think about stuff. As things happen, take it into account. But grow from it. Evolve from it. That would be the first thing I would probably tell you. So the next things I would probably say is that don't take on the burden of time. Don't get burdened down by what can happen. Because at the end of the day, you can't really change it. What's meant to be is meant to be. So you don't want to become burdened down by having the weight of all that laying on top of you. And next, I would just tell you to live. Go about your life from day to day. We don't have no guarantee on anything. We're not guaranteed tomorrow. We're not guaranteed the next minute. So don't get so busy with your life. Don't get so busy with life that you forget to live. Because there's an old saying that I love that says, this ain't a dress rehearsal. You only get one shot at going through this life. So if there's something you want to do it. If there's something you want to be a part of it. And keep your eyes open and watch what happens in the next 2 or 3 decades, or even the next decade. 2035 is going to look a whole lot different than 2025. The good Lord willing and the creek don't rise, I'll be around to see it with you. Watch how things evolve. I watched the video the other day. I can't remember whose video it was. It's not one of the normal videos I watch, or one of the normal people, but I am subscribed to them. But they rarely put content out that I enjoy anymore. But they had made the comment in their video that motovlogging was dying. And I could see that. I could see a lot of people that I've been subscribed to who hasn't put out a video in a year and a half, or they have completely gotten away from motorcycle content and they're shooting all different kinds of content. So I hope motovlogging don't die and completely go away. I certainly don't plan to go nowhere. As I evolve and grow with this channel, I feel like right now it may change, but right now I feel like that motorcycles are going to be pretty well much the intricate part of this. So I hope that's not true. I hope it's not dying. But yeah, that's just kind of the thing, guys. It's, don't be afraid of evolution. Don't be afraid of things evolving around you. Because that's just the natural course of things. Things are going to evolve. Things are going to change. But, they had talked about that, that they believed that motovlogging was falling off and was dying out. Sure, I can see that. I've seen that with people's channels that I've been subscribed to for a while. And you go check their page or something pops up and it's from a year ago or 2 years ago. But, just live. Live the best of your ability. Don't get caught up in drama, because drama just stops you from living. But there it is, guys. A special Saturday episode. Don't know how long this is going to turn out to be, but I hope it's good enough. Maybe by now I've made it in. If not, I'll catch y'all on the Monday episode. I know some of y'all may be saying, well, you're getting lazy. You're not riding. You're doing a lot of these sitting down talking videos like this. Well, this is just part of my evolution. This is just part of me evolving. But there it is, guys. Like I said at the beginning, if you are new here, uh, don't subscribe yet. I always ask that you go backwards from here and check out the old videos and the old catalog. Watch some of them and make sure I'm right for you. And I also want to welcome in new subscribers. We have actually, over the course of this past week, picked up a couple of new subscribers, with the newest subscriber being Yeti's Uncle 666. So welcome in. The newest, or he's our newest subscriber as of the time I'm shooting this video. Uh, he's been commenting and he's enjoying the channel, so welcome in. But think about time, guys, and I think it's about time that I get out of here. So with that, and let me say this, I want to say thank you to all you guys who take time to sit down and watch my episodes and hang out with me. That's not lost on me. I am very appreciative of you guys doing that. It does mean a lot to me. So with that, guys, until the next time, remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, do all that cool stuff. And take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And hey, thanks for watching.